Hey guys, I am a little late, but I'm at Lily's soccer practice. She's got flex period going on this week, and we're trying to get some practices in before we head out. So anyway, I want to catch up a little bit with our Going Deeper live stream. Yesterday, man, tough message, huh? It was a hard message, but you know, I got a ton of good feedback from that message, and what that tells me is that people really are hungry for truth, even if it's hard truth, you know. And I was just so thrilled with the positive feedback we got. So if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to do that, both last week and yesterday and the week before last. But yesterday we were looking in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. There's this place where there's a guy in the Corinthian church. He's doing some really terrible stuff with his stepmom, some really bad sin. And we pointed out the fact that this guy was not just in the shallow end, like he had been, you know, he was a major part of the church. He was in the deep end. Doesn't appear that he was a new believer. He was probably part of the life of the church. And he was continually engaged in this sin. He was unrepentant about it. It was an ongoing thing. He wasn't willing to change. And what Paul said to the church was, you know, you guys handled this wrong. You know, you should have disciplined him. You should have put him out of the church. And it sounds really mean, but the point of it all was, he said you should have done that so that this guy would have come to his senses and repented and come home to Jesus, you know? I mean, it sounds harsh, but it was a tough love kind of thing. And he said, you guys are proud. You guys are letting him do this. Everybody knows about it, you know? And you're proud? Like, you're proud of how, you know, whatever, how enlightened you are or non-judgmental you are or whatever, but you don't realize you're destroying the guy. You know, your willingness to affirm his sin and to applaud his sin and to ignore his sin is sending him on a road to destruction. You should have got tough, put him out of the church, so that he would have awakened and repented and come back home, and that his soul would be saved, you know. So it was tough. It was a tough little passage to cover. But real quick on our Going Deeper today, I just want to look at the other side of the coin and address a different aspect of that. So there's also a passage, as tough as that one is in 1 Corinthians 5, there's another passage, a verse in Galatians 6:1, where Paul says, if someone is caught in sin, those who love them restore them gently. Right? The whole thing that happened in 1 Corinthians 5, that was the last resort. The first resort, when someone's caught in sin, is to extend grace and mercy and forgiveness and to do everything in your power to restore them gently. Right? That's the first thing I want to throw out there. But what I really want to drive home today is not to confuse what was going on in 1 Corinthians 5 with, say, our other relationships like family and friends and things of that nature. 1 Corinthians 5 was a church issue. Okay, this was a guy, part of the church, involved in the life of the church, who refused to repent of his sin, but still claimed, you know, to be a disciple of Jesus. And Paul said, look, you guys can't let that go on. For his sake, you gotta discipline the guy. But church discipline is a lot different than like family life and friendship life. And so what I want to make sure is that we don't take that and apply it to everything, right? Family's a different thing. And when it comes to family, I just want to encourage you, because everybody has folks in their family, either in their immediate family or their distant family, or, you know, their extended family or friends, who have walked with Jesus or claim to be a Christian but are not living it, and they're living in some pretty bad stuff. We all have that, and we all have burdens for people like that. But I just want to throw it out there that the go-to for that is to restore them gently. Sometimes when it's family, man, like when someone falls into sin like that, it's just so easy to get mad at them and be like, dude, oh, they ought to know better. You know, they were raised in church, you know, like their mom taught them better, right? It's when it's somebody close to you, the gut reaction if they fall into something terrible is anger, right? You should have known better. But Paul tells us in Galatians 6:1 to restore them gently, man, to love them, to be an ear that they can talk to listen to extend grace, to extend mercy, to extend encouragement, to tell them the truth, but to do everything in your power to lovingly restore them, right, and bring them back into the kingdom, into the place with Jesus that they need to be. Sometimes love has to be tough, right? There are situations where you have to exert tough love with people, especially if you're enabling them to continue in their mess. Sometimes you have to make really hard decisions. But I just want to remind us that the first move when somebody falls, if somebody falls into sin, or if you find out that someone has been, hiding this hidden sin in their life, who claims to be a believer, right? The first move is always, 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 always to restore them gently. Man, do everything in your power to restore them gently. Because as we looked at yesterday, 1 Peter 4:8, love really does cover a multitude of sins. So anyway, guys, I love you. Sorry this was late today, but I wanted to get it in, even if it is at Lily's practice. Hope you have a great week, and I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts on that. Either your thoughts on this going deeper follow-up or yesterday's message. Love to hear what you have to say. All right, guys, I love you. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.